It's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Deana Zost, FAADOM, Fellowship of the American Academy Dental Office Managers. Love that organization. Thank you so much for stopping by today.
You're so welcome.
You might have seen her name. She's huge on social media, but you'd think it's Deana. But it's Deana because you were named after Dean Martin.
Correct.
How cool is that?
It's pretty cool. My parents were hippies, so I could have been patchouli or cannabis. So I will take Deana all day. But I feel my age when I speak, and I always have a picture of Dean Martin to say that's who I was named after, and that's how you pronounce my name. I have people now that kind of look at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't know who Dean Martin is. So now I feel my age.
But we may be old. But notice we're not eating those Tide Pods.
Yeah, this is true.
Those are all Generation Y, so next time you call your grandpa stupid, he didn't eat a Tide Pod for breakfast. But that's funny that you mentioned Dean Martin because we had the Townie meeting in Las Vegas for 15 years because 15 years ago, Dean Martin and gambling and martinis and cigars, that was the market.
Yeah.
And now the millennials are like, oh, that's gross. I don't like the smell of smoke. I don't drink vodka. I drink, Gatorade or whatever. And
right.
So now we're moving to Orlando because the market, that's a bygone era.
Yeah.
And now Vegas is having to retool because it's just,
You want to feel some old Vegas, go to the El Cortez. You can double fist the martinis. I swear there are wise guys still sitting at the bar. The women who are the waitresses were probably the same women from the 50s. So if you want to get a taste of old Vegas, it's the El Cortez. It is seedy and smoky, and it's wonderful.
Is it downtown?
It's downtown.
Were they covered the sidewalk? Or they covered the street? Where
it's right in front of, I want to say, Fremont.
That's the other Vegas that you might not know about. There's that downtown section, the old town section, and it's just fun to just walk around there. But so Dean Martin Deana, is a regional territory manager for RevenueWell with over 26 years in dentistry. She was a horrible dental assistant for a year, but really great in the front office for 25 years. She is a fellow and lifetime member in the American Academy of Dental Office Management and a founding member of the Dallas-Fort Worth AADOM Chapter and has been a nominee for Practice Administrator of the Year. She is a contributor of educational content for the AADOM eCampus. She is a member of the Speakers Consulting Network. That's the Linda Miles group, right?
It is, yeah.
And has been published in the AADOM Observer DewLife Magazine. Proudest accomplishment is her children, 19-year-old Sam and 17-year-old and soon to graduate from high school, Hannah. Deana has been an advocate for autism awareness since her son was diagnosed in 1999 with Asperger's syndrome. And is raising awareness for Guillian-Barre Syndrome, a very rare autoimmune disorder that causes paralysis after her own experience in June 2017 when you said out of nowhere you were paralyzed for a week.
For a week, yeah. I thought I'd had a stroke and I'm perfectly healthy, and next thing you know, I can't move. Craziest thing. And it's so rare that obviously it's the last thing they checked for. So 6 hours in the emergency room, and blood work was fine, scans were fine, and I just kept getting worse. They finally did a spinal tap, and that's what revealed Guillain-Barre. I was in a teaching hospital, Barnes-Jewish, in St. Louis. I had no less than probably 20 neurologists come see me because most of them had never even seen a case of Guillain-Barre. So I was like a carnival sideshow. But I hobbled out after 7 days and got on a plane and went to Texas, and very thankful. Most people are paralyzed. It could be 6 months to a year. So I'm very blessed.
So was that were you born with that as a genetic, or did you catch is it a virus?
It's a virus. So what happens is your body, I may have had something. You're either sick with something and your body's fighting the virus. So I may have had something and not known it. And my body, once whatever I was sick with was cured, my body didn't turn itself off. So then it turned itself on my nervous system. And your nerves are wrapped in myelin sheaths. And so what Guillain-Barre does is it shreds those protective coverings. So your nerves are just misfiring everywhere. So I'm still, I'm about, 8 months out. So they say it takes about a year or so. There are a lot of people who have a long-lasting issues with it. So I'm very thankful. Every day you can get up and walk.
So now can you get it again?
It's very, I could have a 1 to 2% chance of it coming back. So it's very, very slim.
But it was something you caught, though. It was a virus.
No. It's something my body did. So I may have been sick with something, And it's just your body. It's an autoimmune.
Oh, okay,
an
autoimmune.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Ah.
Very strange. I'd
And
never
you know
heard
what's
of it.
also interesting about the autoimmunes is I was reading that they are highly genetic in clusters, like families who have type 1 diabetes, also have thyroid issues, hypothyroidism, also multiple sclerosis, same type of a deal. What was the other? Celiac sprue, and that's amazing because so there's not only is it genetic, but they're clusters in family trees.
Yeah.
And I was reading this research deal says like if your sister or sibling has any one of these 5, if we could expand your family tree back far enough, or guess in the future, all of those will show up in that tree.
My biological dad has type 1 diabetes. So that, but the funny thing about the Guillain-Barre...
What about your non-biological dad?
No, he's good. He's just
So
fun.
there you go. So your biological dad had type 1 diabetes.
Right.
And when you were talking about this autoimmune disorder on the myelin sheath, that's the same kind of as MS and even muscular dystrophy.
Well, that was one of their concerns. They even checked me for ALS. They were concerned that maybe I was... I had Lou Gehrig's disease. It was, it was just crazy. But I will tell you something funny. So about dentistry, and this would only happen to me. This Guillain-Barre began with what I thought was a toothache. I could have sworn number 14 was coming out. I was ready for my first implant. I'd had facial pain for about a week or so. And I'd called Dr. Martinson. I've got an appointment. I'm thinking, I've got to have an implant now. But that's not what it was. It was just the beginning of nerve pain. So I think about the patients we've seen who have that phantom pain, and I mean the good patients, not the ones after the narcotics. But we can't find anything. So it kind of makes you wonder what else is going on in their body that's causing this type of pain. So, it's a good thing to check on.
And several townies have a child with autism. How's that been in your journey?
So
now that is genetic, right? Asperger's syndrome?
It is genetic.
Now, is that an autoimmune?
It's not autoimmune.
It's not autoimmune.
So it is genetic. And of course, when Samuel was born in 1998, autism, there was not a lot of information. This kid has taught me more and made me find my voice. I have learned more from him than I will ever learn in my lifetime. I am so thankful.
And how old is he now?
He's 19.
He's 19.
He's hilarious. So he's self-sufficient. He works, does all that stuff. To hear his view on the world, it is just refreshing. He'll come in from work and, how's work? He's like, I got a question. And I'm like, what is it? He goes, why is it that when one person at work has a problem with another person at work, they just don't go to that person? They go to everybody else and talk. I don't get it, Mom. What a waste of energy. I'm like, you are the smartest person I've ever met. So to hear their take on why we do what we do as society. It's so wonderful. But his gift is music. He learned through music. He is a very talented electric guitar player. He loves classic rock. I mean, the kid jams like nothing else. So he's very much a blessing.
So that means that's what you were playing when he was little. He was listening to your music selection.
Probably, but I think I was listening to more like alternative music, so I don't know what was going on.
My poor boys, I have 4 boys, and all they grew up on is 70s music, jamming out in the garage. We've never parked in the garage. We always had a wrestling mat, and that's our family thing.
Oh, that's fun.
I wrestled, and they all wrestled from 5 to 15. But it's so funny because when I'm hearing them pull it up in the car, they're listening to something from 1970.
It's fun. Like my daughter's the same way. Like she has a record player. Like she's all about vinyl. She's very sort of eclectic and kind of has that hippie vibe. Sam's very conservative Republican, but they're both so funny. But they love classic music and warms my heart. They like the good stuff.
Oh yeah, it is the best stuff. but that's also when your son is seeing that's why you don't listen to gossip, and it's not because of altruism or you're greater than that. It's misdirected communication, because if that person, and it could be your sister coming up to you venting about your other sister or your brother or mom or whatever. When they vent, they're going to release serotonin and dopamine and oxytocin, then they're going to feel better, and then they go back to their deal, and they didn't get anything done. And you just got to say, no. And you got to grab them by the arm, and you got to walk them to that person.
Right.
and say, now tell Sam what you were about to tell me about Sam. And sometimes they'll bust out crying, or they're totally confused or whatever. But I'll just stop my family, friends, anybody. No. You need to be talking to Tim.
Yeah.
Because if you don't talk to Tim, if you vent to me, you'll feel better. And Tim's still out of the loop.
Yeah. If I can't do anything to help the situation, I don't want that energy. Like, I don't want it. Let's go to the person. But it's just fun to hear his take on, why do people do the things they do? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just how they are. But he's very pure in how he thinks we should communicate. And his view is really spot on. I'm like, kid, you got it. You got it.
Yeah, I have an assistant that has a child with Asperger's syndrome.
Yeah.
And it's the human mind is very amazing. And the founders of Google are Sarge Jen and Larry Page. And your company's got some Sarges and
we got some Sarge, yeah.
And he was a Russian.
Yeah.
And Larry Page was from Wisconsin, and he is autistic.
Yeah.
And the reason his father bought him a computer is he didn't know what he could do. So he bought him a computer, and what did his son do? Started Google.
Right.
And then did you also hear about the autistic programmers at Google, what they say?
No.
That one autistic person programming gets so into the zone, they do the work of 5, 10, 20, 25. And I'll never forget, it was back in, way back when computers started in dentistry. Semantodontics, or Smart Practice used to be called Semantodontics. I think it was Semantodontics. A computer company started with that same name. It was called Compudontics.
I remember that.
And it was by a guy out here named Tom.
Uh-huh.
And he had the most amazing software. And I said, well, what's the trick to it? He goes, you know what? I only have one perfect, amazing programmer. That's why he's in the zone. We have no bugs. Everybody else is trying to scale, so they ramp up to 5, 10, 15, 20, and he makes this section, but it doesn't really interface with this section. And as it gets bigger and bigger, it just becomes a cluster.
Yeah.
And then, and that used to happen with people would outsource. They thought, well, the programs in India are so much cheaper. Oh, that's great. There's not going to be any problems when you send something 15,000 miles around the world and have 50 people working on it. They get it done in a day. But then you'll have bugs.
What's the bugs?
Yeah.
What's that time?
How long is it going to take before you debug that thing?
Yeah.
So podcasters are young. They're 30 and under. Mm-hmm. What is RevenueWell?
So RevenueWell is a really wonderful, you could call it a patient communication system. But what RevenueWell really is we want to go in with our software. We want to help practices use technology to deepen patient relationships. And I know that kind of sounds like an oxymoron. But if we can go in and help them understand how to become a data-driven practice, and what I mean by that is we take so much information from our patients when they're in our chair. We're taking a health history, we're creating a continuing care, we've got a treatment plan, we've got all this information that it sits there and we don't really use it until they come back in and we see it. But if we can take that data, we can automate some systems. People say your plate's full. Work in the front office. We have a turkey platter. That's how big our plate is. Things are coming at us. If we can automate it and customize it and communicate with patients, help create the balance of communication. Oh my gosh. We could have a business office that is actually working proactively, not reactively, every day. So confirmations will be done.
And how did the confirmation? Email or text?
Email and text or text. Patients get to customize it themselves. It's pretty neat.
So confirming appointments.
Confirming appointments. We can reactivate patients. Doctors, if you've ever looked and like, hey, run this report and call these patients and get them in. Number one, people don't answer their phone anymore. They don't. And if you leave a voicemail.
I don't. It's always a bill collector.
Well, 9 times out of 10, you don't even listen to the message. And if it's a number you call them back or, when you can. I want to use our time wisely. Don't spend 60 seconds making a phone call, leaving a message if nothing's going to come of it. So let's automate that. And no-shows. Somebody no-shows an appointment. We can send out an automatic, hey, we've had an unexpected change in our schedule. We have a 2 o'clock available. Click here for it. Patients want to find you online. We can make it easy. They want to find you on Facebook. They want to find it on the Google search. We can help you put something there. They can request an appointment that easy. I've done this for 26 years. When I started, we didn't have a computer. We had a pegboard system. And
same here.
That was the time when we had to handwrite all of our insurance claims in triplicate. And you prayed that first one got there, and you prayed you put the copies in the patient's chart, so you could find it. I have seen so much change, and I have used so many types of systems that what I found about RevenueWell is its intuitiveness, it's user-friendly. Don't give me more work to do. Don't give me a piece of software that's going to create work for me. Give me something that's just going to run in the background of my practice management software, and that's going to help me keep patients in the chair. It's going to help keep the schedule full. It's going to help market our practice. Make my job lighter. Give me the opportunity to fellowship with my patients, be able to educate them more, discuss treatment plans, be present in the moment with that patient.
Ryan, who's the founder of FAADOM? My buddy,
Heather Colicchio?
Heather Colicchio.
Yes.
And I think she's got to be Italian, or lasagna or Italian.
She's the best.
But you know what? How many FAADOMs are? How many of you have earned your fellowship?
God, that's such a good question. I know the class I was in, which was year before last, I want to say there were 54 of us in one class. And last year there were, I want to say, around the same number. So I have no idea. That would be a great question. Kim McQueen, we need that answer.
Yeah, Heather was episode 490. You're going to be like 950. But I did you before.
Yeah.
It was like, you were like an early one.
Yeah.
An early one. Like, what number is that? 200 or something? Or
I was under 5. I was like 2.5 years ago. It was right before
and
I
Ryan,
started.
give Ryan your cell phone. I want to take a selfie. It's not often I get to take a selfie with a hot, gorgeous blonde. I'm not going to.
I love it.
But what I was going to ask, though, the question was, in this space of RevenueWell, there's also solution rates, there's demand force, there's lighthouse, there's patient activation, which is Futuredonics out there, Fred Joyle's deal. I would love to you should get all the FAADOMs and then say in a category of front, like what percent of them would pick RevenueWell over solution rates, demand force, lighthouse, patient activator. But more importantly to me, is the bigger question, the management information system, Dentrix, EagleSoft, Open Dental. So I'm going to back up because I was going to ask you, does it seamlessly integrate with the others?
It integrates with EagleSoft, Dentrix, Open Dental, and PracticeWorks.
Okay, so EagleSoft out of Effingham, where Heartland is.
Yeah.
Dentrix out of Provo, Utah. Open Dental, which is Oregon. And what was the last one you said?
PracticeWorks.
PracticeWorks, which is actually a lot. Because that company don't they own SoftDent?
I want to say it's SoftDent and PracticeWorks.
So does it just integrate with PracticeWorks but not SoftDent?
Not SoftDent, not yet.
So we switched from SoftDent this year to Open Dental. And I was on SoftDent for 30 years. And one of the reasons it's so hard to change, because, I got all these senior citizen grandmas working for me that have been there since Fred Flintstone. And if you met them, you'd all think they were my mom. And but actually, one is 2 weeks older than me. But anyway, the reason we actually switched at the end is because SoftDent just always crashes. It just always crashes. And when I get on Dental Town and I do a search for EagleSoft or Dentrix or Open Dental, it seems like Open Dental, all the threads are raving fans. And then the Dentrix and the EagleSoft is like some kind of self-help support group of not very nice things. And I was wondering what your favorite would be.
So
because a lot of these girls right now are commuting.
Yeah.
She's working at Aspen. She's working at Heartland. She's working, and she's going to start her own office. And she needs to make that decision first.
Yeah.
So what would you tell her when she's saying?
It's hard for me because I love EagleSoft and Dentrix. Now, I grew up on Dentrix, so I'm more familiar with it. I don't know if I would like it more. I like the reporting in EagleSoft way better. It's just a simpler system.
You like the reporting in what?
In EagleSoft.
Okay, reporting in EagleSoft.
It's really good. But I was in one of the first offices. Dentrix went live on Windows in 1996. I mean, I went from DOS, total recall on Friday, and Dentrix on Monday.
So that was, okay, so what she just said, so when I was little, I'm 55, and I know you're not going to tell me your age, but...
I'm 46. I don't
mind.
Are
you 46?
46.
I love when girls... Why are girls afraid to say how old they are? I always thought it's goofy.
I got a face full of Botox. I'm good. I'm fine.
It reminds me of one of my favorite jokes. A little boy gets into his grandma's purse, finds your driver's license. Says, Grandma, you never tell me how old you are, but now I know how old you are. And she goes, Don't look at my driver's license. And says, and I also found out that you got an F in sex. And... But so all the when I was in high school, it was all IBM mainframes, and then everything gets faster, easier, higher quality, and more miniature. So it got down into a personal computer. So Microsoft was instead of a mainframe, it was a microcomputer with Microsoftware, and so all the software, they all started on DOS. And what was genius about Dentrix is when Bill Gates. He told me, he said, when you watch these early adopters, like Intel started, I was born in 62, I think it was in 68, but you're looking at these categories, but when you got 6 or 7 people or 8 or 10 in a space, then all of a sudden one has a 10x growth. That's when you know, okay, these guys are onto something.
They're doing something.
The rest of them are. So Microsoft had a TEDx bust out, and the boys up in Provo said, you know what, we're gonna do a practice management software from scratch on Windows. Whereas all the other DOS-based Softent, they tried to make the windows look like you were on Microsoft, but it wasn't the cut and paste and all that stuff. It was
crazy. It was wild. And I always tell kids these days, I'm like, you know, just to sound my age, you don't know how good you have it. I mean, I do miss the function key. I think there's, because I used it for so long. And I remember when my dad bought our first home computer. I mean... it was this big, and we were so excited to see that green flashing bar, and we could play hangman. It's crazy to think now. That was a big deal. We had one, and then my sister and I had to switch off on who was using it. Now both my kids are running around with their MacBooks and their iPhones, and they did have phones better than me until last week. I did upgrade, so now I have the better phone. But yeah,
so what would you? So just go through those four. EagleSoft has better reporting.
To me, it's just easier, and it's so easy to
I totally agree.
To customize your reporting. I mean, I may not want to see everything. What do I want to see? So let's make it easy for the practice to see what they want. Dentrix, again, I grew up on it, so I know it back in, I know the whole thing. So I'm comfortable with that. I've learned more EagleSoft. Having been with RevenueWell, going into practices, and so they're very similar. So I do.
You think Dentrix and EagleSoft are very similar?
I do. I really do.
And then what would you say about Open Dental?
I've never used Open Dental or PracticeWorks.
But do you hear much about it in the field?
I don't.
So when you're with your FAADOM buddies, it's pretty much all EagleSoft and Dentrix?
Yeah, it's big.
And any of them bigger? Is one bigger than the other?
No, they're pretty equal. It's really funny to me, so I don't hear one versus the other. But you were talking about
EagleSoft's Patterson, and they sell a quarter of all the supplies.
Right.
And Dentrix is Henry Schein. They sell another quarter of all the supplies. And the smartest one was Benco said, we're not doing it. We're not doing that thing. And because they, a lot of times when reps would show up for an office for 20, 30 years, if the computer had gone down or the computer had crashed, and now here's the Patterson lady, hey, how's your day?
Right.
Your damn computer,
Well, what happened?
Yeah.
So it's crazy. But my FAADOM buddies, it's funny. If we got them all in a group, a large percentage, you would find RevenueWell would slide right off their tongue if you ask them what their favorite is. Yeah. It's really fun to see, especially on a lot, on Facebook, there's all these open dental management forums and closed forums, and it's refreshing for me to kind of watch those, and people say, hey, what do I do? Do I do Solution Reach or Lighthouse? And immediately you've got some of my girls going, RevenueWell, you got to do RevenueWell. You got to do it. You just have to see it. And it's just so easy and so efficient. Why would you not do it? We don't have a contract. Why would you not try us?
I know you're going to think I'm biased because I own Dentaltown.
Yeah.
But that's the the problem with the Facebook and those communications, social media started for me in '94 with that endless email group. And the only thing all the social medias did, like MySpace and Friendster and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Pinterest now, they just pulled out of your email. But like they'll have a great discussion on that on Facebook.
Yeah.
But I'm message board, because if my homie listened to that and said, "Oh, I'm going to go to your Facebook page and I'm going to find where you had that discussion," what am I supposed to do? Just go back there and scroll back for a million years?
Yeah, there's so
Whereas
many.
if you went to Dentaltown and you did like I'll say this. I'll go to Dentaltown, and all the difference in message board and
But you
everything
just type
else,
it in and
it's
search
searchable.
something. Yeah.
So I will type in RevenueWell, RevenueWell, and see instantly all the threads on RevenueWell. Now, if I went to Facebook, and I went into the toolbar and typed in RevenueWell,
You'd see the business page and any support group, but it's all the different message boards, all the different pages.
And I just started this for Awatuki.
Really?
Yeah, that was my project this year. I thought to myself, it's the same thing. I mean, these because there's this Awatuki group. But when you got a massive class action lawsuit with a golf course that's going bankrupt, and what used to be a beautiful golf course is now weeds 3 foot tall, and then the city's going to build a 201 through here, you can't go deep. I always say that endless news feeds, like email groups, Twitter, LinkedIn, like you can't change a freeway exit on Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah. I'd say that about politics too. Like, you're not going to change my mind.
Yeah, I cut and pasted the 500,000 words of Dentaltown code that we've worked on since 1998 and called it Tukey Town, and it's great because it's a different deal. But so you didn't comment on PracticeWorks.
Never used it.
You've never used Open Dental or PracticeWorks.
No.
But when you're out to the market, it's pretty much all EagleSoft, all Dentrix. And when you say it's 50-50?
Yeah, I would. Like, I can't say, I see more Dentrix or more EagleSoft. It's really about 50-50. And to me, those are the two big players.
Yeah. So I thought we were the two big players.
We are.
My God, now you're saying it's...
We're not software, we're people.
So that was the question. So RevenueWell totally syncs with that.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Dentistry Uncensored.
Yeah.
What's it cost?
$2.99 a month.
$2.99 a month.
Yes, there is no installation fee. There's no contract. So the last thing we want is, if we're not a good fit, you don't have to keep us. We have amazing support.
And just through life in general, a contract is always a big red flag. Like, say she wanted to be my dental office consultant, and she said, "You got to give me $2.99 a month for a year." Well, what if after 1 month we don't like each other and we don't agree with anything, and I would end this? The craziest place to sign a contract?
Where?
Marriage.
I agree on that.
It is.
I agree.
I mean, imagine if I went up to my best friend and say, hey, are you really my best friend? Well, here, sign
Here's
this
the
contract. And if we break up and you're not my friend, I get half your shit. Why would you sign that? Especially you're the doctor. You're the rich. Who do you think is going to take more of your money? The rich doctor or the waitress from the Apple, from the IHOP? I mean, don't sign contracts. And and these dental companies that have been tarred and feathered the most on Dentaltown, it always comes back to that contract. And then I'm sitting there thinking, that business guy, why does he want these people all upset posting on Dentaltown that are locked into a contract? No contract is huge.
Yeah, when they auto renew the contract and you're trying to get out and you can't get out, I mean, I just don't want you to be stuck with this. And I've done many a demo with doctors, and I have no problem if they want to sit and go line by line, with what they have versus us, and I don't mind doing it, but I will close my laptop and I'm like, I just don't think we're going to be a good fit. It surprises the hell out of them. They're like, wait.
And let's talk about that, because what you said is very profound. So, like, Apple is a closed system, and Android, Google is an open system. So there's pros and cons, everything. I noticed when people wanted to get into CBCTs and CAD-CAM and went with the whole Sirona system, since it's all closed, it was all seamless and all the staff knew how to do it.
Right.
But then the doctor gets on Dentaltown, he says, no, the best CBCT is the iTero and the best is over this. And he gets 6 or 7 pieces, and he may be completely right, But unless you're a tech freak, it can't be used.
Yeah.
And too many times when dentists look at these products, they'll say, okay, well, which one's cheaper? Which one's more expensive? Dude, the only expense you have, your number one expense is a 42% adjusted production off your fee and the PPO. Think about that.
Yeah.
42%. Next is labor, 25%. Think about that. So my deal is usability. Like when you get, if you hand your grandmother an iPhone or an iPod, she's going to figure it out.
Absolutely.
But you go buy her some fancy smancy deal from some other deal, she might not figure it out. So my critique that I'm going through is ramp up time for the staff. How long would it take to train my staff? And everybody thinks they have uniquely gifted staff, but at the end of the day, we're all average staff.
Right.
So training time.
Training time, we do an hour online, set up a training every.
So you do it.
I don't do it.
Okay, you don't do the training?
I have a team who does it. So it's the initial training. So I travel the country, I'll do master trainings. But what we have for our practices is kind of like a recall system. So every 30, 60, and 90 days, our success team is setting up a time, like we're going to turn this on, and then in 30 days, we're going to turn a few more features on.
Oh.
So you're trained on that. If we turned everything on, and I have had practices, I've had doctors who are like, turn it all on, and I'll look at them and go, no way, because then Betty is going to be calling me every day so mad because there's so much going on. So turning a little bit on at a time, and we don't have, like, we have to turn this on first and this on second. It's what do you need? What are you looking for right now? Those are the campaigns. That's the features we're going to do. And turning a little bit on at a time. And we have a complete success team that's amazing. And then, of course, for my practices, when I go in or I talk to somebody on the phone, I mean, everybody has my cell phone number. They can text me a question.
Damn it, I don't have your cell phone number. I guess I ain't everybody. So what is, let me see if you're in there.
I thought I was in there because I've texted you. I should be number
Dean.
one.
Yes, you are.
I told you.
Okay, here's one of my big pet peeves in practice management. One of my huge pet peeves is that dentistry is still this cottage industry. By definition, a cottage industry is when one person doesn't have 1% of the market. Mm-hmm. There's 125,000 dental offices. Heartland just is the biggest, but they just hit 800. They would need 1,250 to be 1%.
Yeah.
And then you go into these cottage industries, they're always talking about wanting new patients. I'm like, dude, you've been in a town of 5,000 for 40 years, and you still need new patients? And then when you go to the Fortune 500, they're into loyalty programs. They're like, Southwest Airlines like, look, who hasn't flown Southwest Airlines? We don't want a new patient.
Right.
We want to get you coming back. I tell dentists they need to switch from spending money on advertising to loyalty programs.
Thank you. It's so much more cost effective to take care of the people you've already seen. Now, yeah, we do want new patients. We want to care for others. But I can't tell you the amount of practices I go into, and I'll do a practice analysis, and they are so like tunnel vision on new patients. And I'm like, but oh my God, you've got 1,200 people that you haven't seen in 2 years. How have you reached out to them? I mean, don't we want them to come back? And that's another reason I love RevenueWell, because and I'm from the South, so I like warm fuzzies, and I like to make people feel good. And if I could have baked you a casserole, I would have today. I think giving those teams the gift of time to create that patient experience, to have that time, why they should want to come back. They should want to come back. They don't know good dentistry.
Right.
They don't know that crown margin is so spot on you can't even stand it, like you dream about it at night. They know they had a great time with us, that you got them out of pain, or you didn't cause pain, or they love how we make them feel. That is the cheapest marketing you could absolutely do in your practice, is just to care for your patients the way you would care for your mother, the way you would care for your daughter, the way you would care for you. To get off dentistry, I love my gynecologist. I love her. She's just like me. She's this person, but she's got this blonde curly hair. I feel so good when I go in there and see her. She's just so nice, and she's like, I wish all my patients were like you. And I'm like, I feel special. And I'm sure she says that to everybody. But if we could make our patients feel like, number one, they're it. Like, you're my number one patient. If I could clone you and work on you all day, damn it, I would do it because I like you. Now, you got to be sincere when you say it. Don't give them BS because they can smell it. That is what it's about. That's what brings that patient back in, and that's what gets them to talking about you. When someone mentions, oh, yeah, I'm looking for oh, my God, you'll love Dr. Grant. I love that guy. Was he a good dentist? Yeah, I think so. I love that guy. I mean, it doesn't hurt. You know, I get fixed up, look good. I love that guy. They don't talk about the dentistry. He did this composite bonding. Oh my God, he layered that thing so, they don't know. But they know you, and they know your team. When I go into practices, I will walk in and I immediately feel it's wow, you guys are doing it right. I want to stay here all day. There are others I am like, back away, and then I pray to Jesus when I walk out. Like, they have these faces that are just, I don't go in with a bag looking like a salesperson. I could be a new patient just kind of walking in to feel it out. It's incredible what you get back from them. So let's give our teams that time. Let's automate the systems, keep patients coming back in, but let's remember why they come back in. It's for us.
So, I mean, percentage. What percent of them you walk in, you just feel the energy, the Carmen love it, and what percent of them you don't?
I want to say there's probably about 50-50. There's about 50-50.
It's that good.
And I do call them out. So when I walk in, I've got
But are these, but you say 50-50, is that because they've asked for a demo on, you're talking about a random cold
just
call?
Random, when I walk into any practice.
So half are you can feel fun, happy, nice, and
Feel
half
good.
you feel stress.
Yeah. And I mean,
So
it's
half that
palpable.
means you're going to walk in there. And back when we're saying get away from advertising and get into customer loyalty, you hear the same thing. Well, let's have this new patient experience. New patient experience. How about an everyday experience?
Absolutely.
And you walk in, and every consultant's the same thing. You walk in these offices, and they're either, you just feel it instantly, which makes you secrete dopamine, serotonin, and the money one, oxytocin, which is what a dog secretes when you meet your dog, but a cat won't.
Oh, that's why I'm not a cat person.
Well, your cat does not love you.
Yeah.
If your cat loved you, it'd be a dog. And you know, when people are now, their spouse dies and they're in depression, they actually FDA approved now you can give them oxytocin because you're with this person who, like a dog, was making you secrete oxytocin. So not only did you just lose your spouse, you lost your drug of choice.
Yeah.
But see, when they walk in, and that's why some salespeople are naturals, because when they talk to you, they're making you secrete dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, and you buy. And then if you don't have that, what you don't realize is they're going to secrete noradrenaline, epinephrine, and they're going to go into fight or flight.
Yeah.
And when they start studying customer service things, like I want this iPhone, and I don't want a Samsung.
Right.
That's a product. But in a service, almost every time we stopped having the service is because one human put me in fight or flight.
Yeah.
One person made me feel bad, and I thought, well, really? You know, you're not the only dentist in town. And they leave. And it's all about, so how does RevenueWell make me switch from advertising to loyalty programs? How does it keep more customers for life?
Well, number one, we're going to communicate with those customers you haven't seen, those patients you haven't seen in a while. And again, I'm old enough to, if you're my age or a little older, you know the term purging of the charts. When I read charts, and I had to go through and go 2 years back and find the stickers, this year I'd go back to 2016, pull all the charts, have a big stack in my office, which drove me crazy because I'm very OCD. Everything has to be neat. And I'd call, and put that away, and then call, and I'd write a postcard. And that process is unbelievably crazy. And then I'd box everything up after making 2 calls and postcards, put it up in the attic, and what happened? That's when they call, and then I'd go back up to the attic. So every day, if I can make a manageable amount of communications, which what I'm saying is, if RevenueWell today can look 2 years back and go, who haven't we seen 2 years ago today? There may be 3 people. So I'm sending out 3 communications. The next day it's the same. We're sending out manageable communications with the data in your software. I don't have to think about it. It's just happening. Instead of sending out this huge blast to 1,200 people, and then they all want to come in, which is great, but where the hell am I going to put them? So it's manageable communication. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to run a report, because you doctors are all about run that report and call those people. It sits because I'm reacting to the day. And a proactive team has energy. They might be like me. They're all smiling and happy to be there. But you're going to go home with energy. Dentistry is dentistry, and I love it, and I eat, breathe, and sleep 24 hours a day. I don't know if you know this, but you sleep with me every night. I mean, the Dental Town magazine. I read it. And all these magazines, I go to bed and I fall asleep, and they're on me, and I wake up with it 24/7. I love it. I am not the norm. I want you to go home, care for your patients, go home, have energy, whether it's for your family, your kids, your dog, your Netflix. Wouldn't that be great to go home at like 5 o'clock, 5:15, and you still got energy to go coach your kid's football game? People are like, wow, can I do that? I'm like, yeah, it's possible. I see it. I've done it. We can get there.
Talk about the user experience or the new patient experience versus the just everyday experience. But Netflix is so huge. It's part of the thing. It's Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. But what it is, since they're not interrupting you with commercials every 15 minutes.
I love some Netflix.
These everybody you talk to, since they get such into the zone, because you're not interrupting with these stupid ads,
right,
that when it's over, they feel so better. Because just like sleep, you need this whole hour of deep REM cycle sleep that can't be interrupted. And you're watching this thriller, and then that switches to some commercial about some pharmaceutical pill, and they're never targeted commercials, so it doesn't apply to me. Like, why am I watching a commercial for a chair going up the stairway, or have I been injured by this?
While you're watching Amazing Race or something.
It's non-targeted, stupid, ignorant commercials, and cable television has lost the entire 50 undercrowd. And their market share is just like Japan. Every day on Japan, there's less people than the day before.
Yeah.
Because you need a birth rate of 2.3 kids per family, and they're at 0.9.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm going off on this is because it's the same thing with a dental office. It's the experience. They're not getting it. And what I can't understand the most, this is what drives me the most crazy. Like, I'm going to go lecture. Tomorrow is I'm in Tempe. And then Saturday, I'm in Mesa at the dental school. Mm-hmm. And when you go to dental, it's like every seminar, some girl will walk up to me and goes, when you talk about this, I'll say, who's your doctor? And she'll roll her eyes and I go, that guy. And I'm like, how do I know your assistant's a toxic nightmare in 1 second? And she's been on your payroll for 5 years and you don't know that? And then you're saying when you walk in these offices, half of them you feel the karma.
Yep.
And half of them you don't feel the karma. So my question to you is, do you think when you don't feel the karma, it's because there's some person toxic in there?
Well, it could be a toxic person, but it's really more the stress. It's just the stress of the day. I mean, the amount of workload that your front office has, and then it could be too, you've hired the wrong person for the wrong position. I mean, that happens a lot. I walk in, I'm thinking, I went into one practice and she was so, like, she didn't acknowledge me. It was the big window with all the stuff on it, and I'm kind of looking through like, hey, I'm out here. I just opened the window. I'm like, hey, you could have hired the wrong person, but every dental office has that toxic person.
What percent of the time is that toxic person the actual dentist versus the staff?
I want to say that is a low percent. I'm going to say 30%.
30% of the dentists are toxic?
Here's what's going on. Yeah, I would say 30%. Here's what's going on. Here's what I see. When you have a toxic person, whether it be business office or hygiene or assistant, the dentist doesn't want to confront it. You've got a lot of introverts you're very rare. You're an extrovert. Unless you're an introvert, you're really good at hiding it. You don't want to deal with it. Even like your best assistant. Like, she's so good clinically. She's been here 25 years, but you can't stand the sight of her, and no one else can either. You're allowing that toxicity to go on in the practice, so it is the dentist who won't confront it. So I see that a lot, and I've experienced it. Having somebody in that I'm ready to let them go. I mean, they are a bad apple, and everybody knows it, and you feel it. So, but a lot of dentists don't want to confront it. They don't want to deal with it.
But here's the point I'm trying to school you on. Is that you always sit there, and when you're mad at the assistant because she didn't run this report right, or she didn't balance a bank statement right, or she doesn't mix right, or anything like that, that's all the technical stuff that the patient doesn't see. Yeah. The number one thing is, how does the human make your team and the customers feel? And my number one thing, like, I would put up with a mountain of shit if everyone loved you.
Yeah.
But if you were the world's best technical whatever you did, but nobody likes you, you're gone right now. And on dental school, first of all, when you start asking for advice on dental time about whether you should hire or fire this person, man, that's the most elite part of any game is HR.
Yeah.
And what advice could you give them to ramp up their HR skills? Because after you've been around the block, after you've laughed at some 40, 50 times, you start to understand people.
Yeah.
And at 25, you think you know everything.
Yeah, no. I still don't know everything. I'm 46. I don't know it all.
But people's the hardest game. How do you get better at managing staff?
You've got to, first of all, you got to take some CE. You got to get into classes about HR. One of my favorite people to listen to is Jenny Haggerty. She's amazing.
We've had her on the show.
She's amazing. I love to hear her talk.
Can you tape that?
Love to hear her talk. I'd love to hear her perspective. I love to hear the law. I'm all about the law. What's the law about? But also psychology. You can find lots of presentations, lots of speakers, even online. You can find a lot of things. Go to YouTube, go to TED Talks, find something. You can find a lot about the psychology of people. Know the communication of your team, whether it's a DISC profile or whatever you got to use, but figure it out. It's kind of like the love languages. Your spouse, your significant other, you're going to communicate in a way that they receive it, and it's vice versa. So know that. Don't be afraid to let people go. That's the thing. You cannot be afraid to do it. Oh, well, then the patients will leave. Well, if those patients are going to leave because you let the assistant go, they're not there for you anyway, so let them go.
But the patients are all leaving, and 100% of people say, what do you think about corporate dentistry? I say, well, what do you think about the fact that you're 65 years old and you still need new patients, and you live in a town of 2,700?
Yeah.
The entire county only has 6,000. So you need new patients every month. For 40 years, you still need new patients, and you think corporate dentistry has a problem?
Right.
If you can't they can't keep their customers, they can't keep their spouses, they can't keep their staff, and the fastest way through this journey of life is to master people.
Yeah.
I'd rather master people than chemistry, calculus, geometry, and physics, which I spent 10,000 hours in a library mastering all that shit, and I've never used it a single time.
Do you remember our teachers
Never.
used to say, do the math equation in your head because you'll never walk around life with a calculator? And what do we have on our iPhones? We have calculators.
And you can talk about cheating in math. Do you realize on Google, which is started by Sergeant and Larry Page and two guys in a Stanford postgraduate program in algorithmic mathematics, you can actually just go to voice and you can just read the most complex math equations.
And it just right there.
You don't even have to enter with your fingers. It's voice activated.
I love it.
But again, what do you think the dentist, if he said these are the top 3 problems you see when you talk to your dentist, bing, 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 what are the top 3 that you're hearing in the field?
Top 3 I hear is not enough new patients. Number 1, I would find out what your attrition rate is. How many people are you losing per month? It's really simple on EagleSoft. You'll have a practice analysis report in the reporting, but it'll show you your attrition. I think every one of these software systems has that. You can definitely take a look at that. Number 2, it is staffing problems, team problems. It is the communication. Is everybody on the same wavelength? Are we all, communicating correctly? That causes, bad attitude or good attitude. The third thing, and I think it's the most important, is I go into probably 90% of the practices, they don't even have set systems in place. Do you know if you have a system for everything, everything has a system? And if everybody knows how to do what they're supposed to do, it just kind of runs like a well-oiled machine. And there's no, hey, what do we do about this? Or it's in the systems manual. If you don't have a systems manual, you are flying by the seat of your pants. If you're not training new team members and they're failing, it is your fault. It is not their fault.
I want to rant on each one of those.
Okay.
Not enough new patients. Why do you need new patients? Because you're losing all your old patients. God dang it, quit. I watched people 30 years ago spend nothing on advertising. Then after 15, 20 years, it was like 3%. Now there's a lot of people think you should be spending 7%. Why don't you spend time on figuring out why they don't come back? Is it you? Is it Mary Ellen? Is it your hygienist? Number 2
and
is...
ask them, call them. If someone's not coming back, pick up the phone and say, hey, we haven't seen, what's going on? If you hear they're not coming back, dentist, pick up the phone. Now, if you don't want them to come back, that's a totally different thing.
But look at their natural reaction. Like, they'll get a bad Yelp review.
Yeah.
So their first phone call is to an attorney.
Yeah.
When anybody from the hood where we grew up, from Texas to Kansas, my first call is to you.
Yeah.
Mary, why did you say that?
On? Yeah.
And then she'll tell, and then before she comes back, it's taken down.
Yeah.
When you, how many times you go to Dental Town and say, you know what I'd like to tell my hygienist? I'd like to tell her. It's like, why are you posting on Dental Town?
Go tell her.
Why don't you go tell her? And my God, I mean, they know in their gut, but they don't listen to their gut.
Yeah.
They're always arguing with their gut. Their gut's saying, man, just let her go. And then you got this frontal cortex.
All this self-talk.
Yeah.
Funniest thing I ever heard was a doctor got a 1-star review from one of his best patients, and he called me. He's freaking out. He's like, I don't know what to do. She only gave me 1 star. I'm like, did you call her? No, I haven't called her. Why don't you call her? He calls her. She's, I don't know how old she is, a little older, and she thought 1 star meant great.
Well,
so she got confused.
Well,
so it's
our solar system has a 1-star rating.
Yeah, there you go. Poor Pluto. You know,
My
look at
God.
the shaft of the planet.
So she just thought 1 star was the
She
best.
thought 1 star was the best. So he fretted for like a week, freaking out, and I'm like, have you called her? You know, picks the phone, calls her. If he would have done that initially, he would have saved himself 7 days.
And your specialist. I had one lady, I remember, it was a board complaint because she thought we were trying to sell her deep cleaning.
Yeah.
She just wanted a regular cleaning. And so I called her, it was a man, and he lives like 1 block from my baby. He's screaming, yelling, all this stuff. So I work with the periodontist. So I said, well, you call him. And I told my periodontist, I said, you know, you got to call this guy.
Yeah.
And they're like, because they're all introverts. They all want to go back to algebra class and sit in the library and party with the librarian. And just by having another person, a periodontist, call him and then say, you come on my office. I'm right up the street. I'll show you. I mean, Howard doesn't tell people they have gum disease when they don't. I mean, you're either saying he's a pathological liar,
right,
or he's a bad communicator and didn't explain it to you well enough. But if you and Howard have issues, come to my office. But just that stopped the whole board complaint.
Yeah. Well, so I have to tell you something about that. I'm not a dentist, nor will I ever be one. But I've had the privilege of working for some amazing dentists. Those people who just want a cleaning and they have periodontal disease, don't give them just a cleaning. It's supervised neglect. That's what you're doing. Educate them. Show them the radiographs. Show them scans. Show them pocket depths. Educate them. And stop calling it a deep cleaning. It's non-surgical periodontal therapy. I mean, next step is surgery. You know, like, they need to know that's what this is. That includes your team. That is a part of how we communicate. You've got to make it important, but stop giving them what they want when it comes to that. I just want a cleaning. Okay, great, that's what we'll do. What are you doing? Then they're going to go to someone else 6 months later, and, you know, it's not going to look good. And it's like, wow, now you have these 8mm pockets, and there's nothing we can do. Well, why didn't my dentist tell me 6 months ago? You did, but you gave them that regular cleaning.
So what percent of dentists actually buckle and shut up? Their staff aren't allowed to teach or sell or dentistry. I mean, there's dentists on Dental Town where if the hygienist starts showing them cavities on the X-rays, they go ballistic, legal. You're not a doctor. You're diagnosing
Suspicious areas. I mean, here's what I see.
But what percent of dentists you think muzzle the staff?
That's a good 80%.
80%.
Yeah, that's
and the ones that are
big.
selling all the dentistry is because the staff. And I tell my hygienist, you know, I'm not going to tell you to sell a crime. You know, selling that. Talk about what you're passionate. You know, my oldest sister, who's been a nun longer than I've been a dentist, read every major religion known to man.
Yeah.
And the oldest one is Hinduism, then Buddhism, Confucianism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. And she said the only common word or line in all religions, there's not a name of a person in all 7, a city, a state, there's nothing except for one line. They call it the golden rule: treat other people like you want to be treated.
Exactly.
And she says and she can read in those languages.
Wow.
And she says it's pure plagiarism. So that's why she believes in this invisible hand that wrote all 7 major religions.
Yeah.
Because she says, Howard, you would get plagiarism at any university.
Yeah.
And these weren't written in
They were all
different
written.
times. And that's what I tell my hygienists. I mean, Talk to that patient like that was your mouth. I'm not telling you a criteria that I want to do 10 bleachings a month. I mean, could you imagine if every time I walk in the doctor, he said, "Hey, would you like hair plugs? We got a special on hair plugs, and we're trying to move 10 a week on hair plugs." Or every time you went in to get your hair cut, they said, "No, you need to be a redhead. You need
right,
to be."
right.
I think it's insulting to tell a girl, "Oh, you need to bleach your teeth."
Yeah.
She's probably looking at me saying, "Yeah, you got to lose 50 pounds." It's not my place to tell you need whiter teeth. Hell, women have enough problems without being told they need to be more objectified by bleaching and gums and veneers. I would never tell a woman she needs veneers, but I tell a lot of people they need ortho because I think it's easier to clean the teeth. They're healthier. There's a ton of orthodontic reasons.
But that's different.
But not bleaching, bonding, veneer reasons.
If the best thing you could ever ask your patient, and don't just do it with your new patient. So I did a podcast with Gary Tackics this was like 4 or 5 years ago. So I think of patients like dates. Your new patient's like a first date. You want to put your best foot forward. You really want to have a really good impression on that patient. But your patient who's been your patient for 30 years, you still have to court and woo them. So you treat everybody the same. There should be no, definition between how we treat a new patient and how we treat our existing patient. It should be amazing right across the board. But the best question you can ask your patient, I don't care who it is, sit in the chair, is there anything about your smile you'd change? Ask them. You never know. We had a patient, this is probably 10 years ago, he pulled his partial out and he's like, I'm sick and tired of putting this in a cup. Can you do anything about it? Had we not asked that question, he would have walked around with partial. He ended up being a full mouth rehab. We did implants and porcelain bridges, and it was amazing. But had we not started asking questions, we never would have known.
The other thing that I've learned over 30 years that, the guy missing his front tooth, you think that'd be the easiest sell.
Right.
But when you say, is there anything you like about your smile? It seems like it's always the prettiest women with the prettiest teeth with the most perfect smile there could nothing be wrong with this.
Yeah.
And she's the one that, there's a black line of this crown back here. And it's like, so you don't know what that person's seeing when they look in the mirror.
Right.
I mean, it's,
and don't assume.
And by the way, I want to tell you something. The founder of AADOM, Heather
Colicchio.
Colicchio. She was 490, but you were 179.
Wow.
And of our first 1,000 podcasts, we don't bring anybody back twice but the legends.
Wow.
So I can tell you, I don't think I've ever done a podcast with anyone that didn't want to come back or this or that. And I mean, because we can only do one a day. But you know what I wish you'd do?
What?
I wish you'd do, on that search for RevenueWell, I wish you would go in there and answer or comment on all those threads.
On all the threads.
Yeah, just do a search. Say you go to Dental Town, so we'll do a search because the difference between the reason Dental Town has 250,000 dentists and they post 5,000 times a day. That's and every one of them's on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. But what this is, it's about the searchability of an FIQ. Like can RevenueWell be used with open dental? Now see, you could answer that one time on Dental Town and it'll be there for eternity. And anybody can find it.
I'll be like, call me.
That's why I like the message board format over the newsfeed. Revenue and Dentrix. But I wish you would opine on these. And then also what's great, it's great leverage. It's like the podcast. By the way, you know why we're thinking about ending the podcast?
Why? Have you interviewed everybody?
No, it's the fact that now that I only did it to start a genre. They were asking me that 250,000 dentists, 60,000 download the app, that they have an hour commute to work, and they're tired of listening to the news because it's so toxic.
Right.
And it puts them in a bad mood and all this stuff. So I said, I'll do this to start a podcast section. Well, now I have 40 people in dentistry podcasting.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, and look at the views. People don't understand Dental Town. Look at this, guys. How to open a dental office. 685,379,000 views.
That's crazy.
Because the internet doesn't, there's 2 million dentists, so the internet doesn't know if you're Canadian or in Cambodia. And me and Ryan have lectured in 50 countries. I mean, there's people listening to this right now. I bet you'll have more people listening to this right now out of Asia than North America.
Oh.
Because North and South America combined only has 1 billion people.
Only?
Africa has 1 billion. China alone has 1.3. India has 1.1. I mean, it's like 3.5 billion are in Asia. So I mean, so the reason we have it's. But I'd really like you to go there and post that.
I will absolutely.
And by the way, if you have a dental podcast, you should put it on Dentaltown. I mean, it's free. I mean, it doesn't cost anything. Why would you put it on iTunes for free and not put it on Dentaltown?
Put it where it could really be
because what they're doing. I know my homies, they get in the car and they're going to the app and they're going to the podcast and they're saying, what do I need the most? It's about me. I mean, how to open a new dental office. Am I working at Aspen and I want to start a dental office?
Yeah.
That then they're listening to how to open a dental office podcast. Is it I'm a dentist but I want to invest all my money in real estate? Then they want to listen to a dentist who's made millions investing it all in real estate. I mean,
right.
But with 40 different shows, these podcasts are...
Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. So a good friend of mine, Dana Watson, she is a wonderful fellow in AADOM and also a great speaker. She lives in Nashville with her husband, Dr. Terry Watson. She and I are we're in cahoots too, which cahoots is what we do in the South when we're, planning stuff. So we're in cahoots on doing our own podcast, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be good.
So is it going to be sound or sound and video?
It'll be sound and video.
Because, see, my mom told me I had a face for just iTunes. And I bet your mom told you should just be on YouTube. So, and by the way, to you other podcasters out there, I can't believe, why do you do a sound-only file when the two biggest websites are Google and YouTube?
Yeah. Which are the same thing.
And what did Facebook immediately, what was one of the first things they pioneered? The video. So when I upload all my podcasts onto Facebook.
Yeah.
We've had 10 on Facebook that had over 190,000 views just on Facebook. So but today 95% of all the podcasts are audio only.
Yeah.
And you're missing Facebook video, YouTube.
It's good to have both. Have something to listen to in the car, but have also the video with it. Because
I notice when I'm listening to a lecture on YouTube, it's fun to look at and see the
right.
But before long, you just set your iPhone down and you're just listening, or you put it in your pocket and you're walking around the house. It's fun to look at it for a minute to say, well,
who it is.
Who is this TED Talk teacher?
Yeah.
And you get a little feel for a little bit about, because age affects the content. I mean, obviously an 80-year-old person thinks differently than a 20-year-old person.
Right.
Yeah, I'd really like you to go in Dentaltown and answer all those questions. I think that'd be amazing for my homies. And I think, in all seriousness, it is a huge honor to have you come back twice.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for all that you do for dental. I can't believe we're already in overtime.
I know, that's crazy.
I chose an hour, and we're at an hour 5. And that's another thing I do with your podcast. It doesn't surprise me that you figured to do audio and video. And then a lot of people say, well, the shorter ones are better. You should do 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Well, the longer the podcast, the more all those groups. If you want a 5-minute commute, you can listen to the first 5 minutes, and then decide if you want to come back and listen more. If you have a half-hour commute, you can listen to half the show and come back. But our brand's an hour.
Yeah.
And I was telling you why we think we would end the show.
Oh.
And that'll be less. It's because now, when we go on these long lecture trips to Asia and Africa and things like that, if we don't put out any shows, our views are the same.
Really?
Because once you get to about 600-700 shows, right now I have 1,000 shows.
That's a lot.
So if you like the show, it'd take you 1,000 days. That's 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So. The marginal return of one more show. It's kind of like Netflix. If you saw a series of, say, Breaking Bad, well, does it matter if it's 36 shows or 46 shows or 56 shows?
No, you want to get there.
But as far as someone getting into the show.
Yeah, no.
It's just so now every additional unit of podcast it has no measurable effect on the show.
So it's kind of like dentistry. No more new podcasts. We're just going to keep the attrition high with the existing podcast.
Yeah. So you heard it from her. You say you don't have enough new patients. I say you're losing your patients.
Absolutely.
Dean Martin A. Zost says that RevenueWell for $2.99 a month will keep your existing patients.
Absolutely.
These are never commercials. She didn't give me a dime or a dollar. Either did RevenueWell. Deana Zost, thank you so much for coming by the house today.
I appreciate you. Thanks.